Number 7. The oxygen scam. You've been doing it since the literal second you entered this cold, confusing world, yet there is a statistically significant chance you are currently breathing like a panicked squirrel. Most of us are chest breathers. We take these shallow, pathetic little sips of air that barely reach the top of our lungs, making our shoulders hunch up toward our ears like we're perpetually bracing for an unexpected slap. This is objectively suboptimal. When you breathe into your upper chest, you're signaling to your sympathetic nervous system, the part of your brain that still thinks a saber-toothed tiger is lurking behind the refrigerator, that you are in a state of high alert. You are essentially gaslighting your own body into thinking you're in a permanent state of crisis just because you forgot how a diaphragm works. The diaphragm is a large dome-shaped muscle sitting right under your ribs, and its entire job is to act like a piston. If you're doing it right, your belly should expand, not your chest. Think of your torso as a bellows for a blacksmith's fire. When you belly breathe, you're engaging the vagus nerve, which is basically the chill out button for your entire internal biology. It lowers your heart rate and tells your brain that no, the world isn't actually ending, you're just sitting in traffic. Most people breathe around 12 to 20 times a minute, but if you actually use your full lung capacity, you can drop that down significantly and stop vibrating with low-level anxiety. By neglecting the lower two-thirds of your lungs, you're basically trying to run a Ferrari on lawnmower fuel. You aren't relaxed, you're just a pressurized canister of carbon dioxide waiting to pop. Your lungs are capable of so much more, but you're treating them like a pair of decorative pillows. Number 6. The porcelain throne. Malpractice Society has lied to you about how to go to the bathroom. Specifically, the Western world decided a few hundred years ago that sitting at a 90-degree angle on a ceramic chair was the civilized way to handle your business. In reality, this is a physiological disaster. Your body was designed to squat, not sit. Inside your pelvis, there is a muscle called the puborectalis muscle. Think of it as a literal kink in a garden hose. When you're standing or sitting normally, this muscle pulls on your rectum to keep everything locked shut, which is great for not ruining your pants at a dinner party. However, when you sit on a standard toilet, that kink only partially relaxes. You are essentially trying to push a bowling ball through a bendy straw. To fix this, you need to get your knees above your hips. This is why people buy those little plastic stools to put under their feet, making them look like a gargoyle over the toilet bowl. This posture straightens the hose, allowing for a clear, unobstructed exit path. Without the squat, you're forced to strain, which leads to fun things like hemorrhoids and a generally miserable morning. We've traded biological efficiency for the luxury of reading Twitter on a throne. Your ancestors, who were squatting in the woods behind a bush, were actually more anatomically advanced than you are right now. By sitting upright, you're basically playing a high-stakes game of Tetris where the pieces don't fit. Your colon isn't broken, it's just being held hostage by your furniture. Number 5. The hydration lie. Some people treat water like a competitive sport. You've seen them lugging around those gallon-sized jugs that look like they belong in a nuclear fallout shelter, frantically chugging until they're basically translucent. But here's the thing, if you chug a liter of water in 30 seconds, you aren't actually hydrating. You're just giving your kidneys an emergency chore. Your body can only absorb about 20 to 28 ounces of water per hour. When you flood the system, your brain panics and sends the flush everything signal. You'll end up peeing out all that water along with vital electrolytes 10 minutes later. You aren't a sponge, you're a complex filtration system that prefers a slow drip over a flash flood. Furthermore, water alone isn't always the answer. If you drink massive amounts of plain H2O without any salt or minerals, you're actually diluting your internal chemistry. This is why you can drink a gallon of water and still feel like a piece of dehydrated fruit. Your cells need electrolytes, sodium, potassium, magnesium, to actually pull that water inside the cell walls. Think of electrolytes as the VIP pass that lets the water into the club. Without them, the water just hangs out on the sidewalk until the bouncers, your kidneys, kick it out. Instead of drowning yourself, try sipping slowly and maybe eating a cracker once in a while. You're trying to hydrate your cells, not create a personal slip and slide for your internal organs. Number 4. Walking like a human. Imagine walking into a room and realizing you've been using your legs wrong for 20 years. Most people heel strike when they walk, slamming their heel into the pavement with the grace of a falling piano. This sends a shockwave up your skeleton, rattling your knees, your hips, and eventually your spine. We do this because modern shoes have huge, squishy heels that master pain, but your joints are still feeling the impact. If you walked barefoot on a hard floor right now, you'd probably notice that heel striking hurts. That's because your body is screaming at you to stop using your skeleton as a pogo stick. The correct way to walk involves more of a mid-foot strike, using the arch of your foot as the natural shock absorber it was meant to be. Your foot has more bones and joints than almost any other part of your body, yet we treat it like a solid block of wood. Additionally, most of us walk with our heads tilted forward, staring at our phones or the ground. Your head weighs about 10 to 12 pounds, roughly the size of a professional bowling ball. Every inch it moves forward from your center of gravity, it effectively doubles in weight as far as your neck muscles are concerned. By the end of the day, your upper back is screaming because it's been trying to hold up a 20-pound weight at a weird angle for 8 hours. You're not getting old, you're just a bipedal wreck who's forgotten how to balance a heavy ball on a stick. Number 3. The sleep sabotage. Your brain is a prehistoric lump of meat that still thinks it lives in a cave, and you're ruining its life with LED lights. We've been taught that sleep is just turning off, but it's more like a highly coordinated biological theater production. One of the biggest mistakes you're making is staying too warm. Your body temperature needs to drop by about 2 or 3 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate sleep. If you're bundled up in a fuzzy cocoon with the heater on, your brain stays in daytime mode because it's waiting for the cool evening air that never comes. You're basically slow cooking your brain and wondering why you're still awake at 2 a.m. Then there's the blue light issue. We all know the don't look at your phone rule, but do you know why? Blue light mimics the specific frequency of the morning sun. When that light hits your retinas, it tells your brain to stop producing melatonin and start producing cortisol. You're literally sending a good morning text to your pineal gland while you're trying to go to bed. Even worse is the revenge bedtime procrastination, where you stay up late because you feel like you didn't have enough control over your day. You're trying to reclaim your freedom by making yourself a zombie the next morning. It's a self-destructive cycle where you're the bully and the victim at the same time. Your brain wants a cold, dark cave, but you're giving it a heated disco. Number 2, the art of the non-apology. Most people apologize like they're trying to win a court case. If you've ever said the words, "I'm sorry you feel that way," you haven't actually apologized. You've just performed a subtle linguistic assassination. A real apology requires you to take ownership of the action, not the other person's reaction. When you say, "I'm sorry I was late," you're taking the hit. When you say, "I'm sorry you're mad that I was late," you're shifting the blame onto their emotional instability. It's a defense mechanism disguised as politeness, and your brain does it because your ego is terrified of being wrong. Psychologically, admitting fault feels like a physical threat to your status. Your amygdala, the lizard brain, flares up when you're criticized, making you want to fight or flee. This is why you feel that weird, hot prickle in your chest when someone calls you out. To apologize correctly, you have to bypass that lizard brain and use your prefrontal cortex to acknowledge the harm caused without adding a "but" at the end. "I'm sorry, but" is just a way of saying, "I'm about to justify why I did it, so my apology doesn't actually count." If you can't say, "I messed up, I'll fix it," without a list of excuses, you're just gaslighting with a smile. Your social life is essentially a series of fires you're trying to put out with gasoline. Number 1, reading is not learning. You've probably spent hours highlighting a textbook until it looked like a neon fever dream, thinking you were studying. You weren't. You were just practicing recognition, which is the lazy cousin of actual memory. Your brain is an incredibly efficient energy saver. If it sees the same information twice, it says, "Oh, I know that," and stops trying to store it. This creates an illusion of competence. You feel like you know the material because it looks familiar, but the moment the book is closed, the information evaporates like a puddle in the Sahara. True learning requires active recall. You have to force your brain to struggle to find the information. It's the difference between looking at a map and trying to navigate a city from memory. When you struggle to remember a fact, you're strengthening the neural pathways, literally building a physical road in your brain. If you just read the same page 4 times, you're just looking at the road, not driving on it. The more painful and annoying it feels to remember something, the more likely you are to actually keep it. You've been taught to make learning easy, but if it's easy, you're probably not learning anything. You're just staring at paper and hoping for a miracle. Your brain is a lazy librarian who won't file the books unless you scream at them.